you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
We head to overtime.
Who else could it be? With me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Monday Night Football Overtime. Raiders, Rams, doubleheader, the second game of a Monday night doubleheader that featured Lions, Jets. Earlier, this was the nightcap, and this was a pretty competitive game. Don't let the final score fool you. For those of you who didn't watch and just came back and looked at the box score, you'll look at the game and say, oh, Rams did what they were supposed to do. Game was a lot closer than the final score indicates. As a matter of fact, going into the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken, the Rams scored on the final play of the fourth quarter to take the lead for the first time in the game at 20-13. So this game was up for grabs for much of the night, but the Rams dominated the second half, primarily the fourth quarter, which is winning time in the National Football League. And you saw the true colors of Derek Carr. And I've had this conversation with one of my best friends so many times, and he already understands and he knows that Derek Carr is a guy that you must protect. And when he's not comfortable, he'll do some stupid things with the football. This goes all the way back to his days at Fresno State. I've had Raiders fans try to tell me that he's over his issues with pressure. And the bad part was there wasn't an inordinate amount of pressure on him tonight. But you hit him a couple of times, you make him uncomfortable, and the B word comes out of Derek Carr. There was a third down in this game in a critical situation. You're down 20-13, and there's no pressure on Derek Carr. There's a clean pocket. If he wants, he can even escape the pocket and extend the play to see if he can find something down the field. What does he do? He chucks the football 4 rows up into the seats. Crowd even boos him because of it. Rightfully so. That's Derek Carr. You hit him a couple of times, you make him uneasy, he'll get rid of the football. He wants no part of any kind of smoke from any kind of pressure, and you saw a little bit of that tonight, but we've seen that throughout his career, and again, this goes all the way back to his Fresno State days. So it's going to be hard to win with a quarterback that you have to keep clean at all times and doesn't want to be hit. And it doesn't help that you've got a very passive-aggressive number 1 wide receiver in Amari Cooper. He's the type of guy, and there's nothing worse than a T.Y. Hilton type of number 1 wide receiver, but at least T.Y. Hilton will go off every 2 or 3 games or so for about 8 catches, $153, and 2 scores. With Amari, you may get that once every 6 weeks, but generally, Amari Cooper is non-existent. He has no problems going 1 catch for 9 yards, which is, I believe, what he did tonight. And on that pick 6, he pretty much quit on that route. So that's Amari Cooper in a nutshell. You know, he's a guy that I never loved him coming out of Alabama. Thought he was good, never thought he was great. And this is another situation where you see a team, no Khalil Mack on the defensive side. They got no pressure on the quarterback tonight. And you look at their offense, and they really don't have an identity over there. With John Gruden, the identity is supposed to be running the football. We're going to pound the rock, ground and pound. That was his moniker in Tampa Bay. That's seemingly what he wants to do with Oakland. But the problem is, in order to do that, you got to be able to play defense. And even though they put up a fight tonight, a semblance of a fight, this isn't a defense that's going to scare many teams around the league. And so you worry about this Raiders football team. And I thought they fought hard tonight. I didn't expect them to – I expected them to give us their best punch early because they want to defend their coach. Everyone's pretty much saying that they're going to be bad. They don't have any defensive prowess. The one guy that was any good is gone. Their offense, what are they going to be? John Gruden's coming back. You're an old football team. They've heard all of the rumors. They've heard all of the different things going around. They've heard all of the criticisms of their roster and their team and their organization. So they wanted to come out and they wanted to get one for their coach and defend his honor, and not only defend him, but also say to the rest of the league, hey, we're not one man, we're a team, and we're going to show you guys that we're better than just Khalil Mack. But the problem with the Raiders is that there just isn't enough. There isn't enough talent. There isn't enough young talent at that. And to make matters worse, when you look at the way that this roster is constructed, I don't know of any guys that's going to take this team and get them to where they want to go. I don't think Derek Carr is that guy. I don't think Amari Cooper is that guy. You don't have that guy at the running back position. I don't see anybody on the defensive side of the football that's that guy. Right now, I look at the Oakland Raiders, and I just see a team of veteran players and a few young players sprinkled in. We'll see as the season progresses if a guy like Arden Key or Maurice Hurst or P.J. Hall or one of these guys can step up and give you something. But right now, I look at this Raiders football team, and there isn't a lot there that gives you hope for the future. There's not a guy you can hang your hat on. That guy was Khalil Mack. And I don't want to make this a Khalil Mack fest tonight. We've done that enough. They beat it up on Monday Night Football tonight. I don't want to do that here. But it's going to be a tough, long road back for the Raiders. And Rome wasn't built in one night. And so Gruden's going to come back. He's going to overturn his roster. And we'll see where things go. But enough of the Raiders. They lost tonight. How about talking about the winners in tonight's game? To the victors go the spoils, as we always say here on the Louie T Network. And that was the Los Angeles Rams getting it done 33-13 over the Oakland Raiders. 20 unanswered points for the Rams in the second half of this game. Remember, they were trailing 13-10 at the halftime break. They turned it up a notch, and the Raiders simply could not keep pace as Derek Carr turned it over time and time again, and the Rams finally were able to get in the end zone. Really, for me, the first half was about missed opportunities for the Rams. When I look at the way this game was set up and the score at halftime, 13-10, Raiders up, everyone was talking about the Raiders and how well they were playing. And I looked at the scoreboard and I'm like, you do realize that this is not a 23-10 game. It's 13-10. Literally, we're one Rams possession away from a tie or Rams taking the lead. So I felt like the Rams got down there a number of times. Jared Goff was living very dangerously early in this football game. Probably should have been picked off multiple times on some throws that I think he'll wish he had back when he goes back and watches the film. Probably should have been picked off on a play that he tried to force to, I want to say it was Cooper Kupp. About 4 Raiders around, ball gets batted in the air. Should have been picked off by Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. Ball ends up hitting the ground somehow, some way. Then there's another one in the end zone. He tries to force it to Cooper Kupp once again. This time, Leon Hall, the veteran corner, steps in front of that one, dives. Should have probably picked that one off. He was living dangerously. They weren't in sync, and it's another one of those situations where you don't play your guys in the preseason. This is what you get. You get sloppy first half play, and you're lucky that you were playing a team that allowed you to get right in the second half. If you were playing a better opponent week one, you probably lose this game because you were not in good enough sync. You were not in a good enough rhythm offensively to beat a good team. But luckily, you were playing the Raiders tonight. Had you been playing, say, another team in that division, like the Denver Broncos or the Chiefs tonight, you might have lost this game. You might have lost this game because how many deep balls did Jared Goff miss tonight? Had guys open, down the field deep. Raiders secondary getting beat all night long, and yet you could not connect. But like I said, the Raiders gave you opportunities to stay in the game. You forced some turnovers to keep you in this game. You missed a field goal. I mean, things weren't going well for you in the first half. Had a couple of possessions get down inside the 20, settling for field goals. So you missed a field goal on the dirt. You hit a field goal, and that one was one of those drives where you thought you could finish it off with the touchdown. You didn't. So, and then you get down there again to start the second half, and you got to settle for another field goal. So another trip inside the 10, and you got to use a field goal to tie the game up at 13. So I thought it was a sloppy start to the game for the Rams from a team that was scoring up over 30 points or close to it last year to a team that was struggling to get the football into the end zone. But eventually you got things cranked up, were able to get the momentum in the game. I like the way you sped up tempo, changed tempos. You did it in the first half with a little bit of success, but I like the way that you established Gurley as the game wore on, because I felt like he didn't get enough touches early in the first half. I thought there was a little bit more emphasis on the passing game early in this football game, and then they finally said, you know what, yeah, let's feed our horse. Let's get him involved, and the passing game will open up because of the success of the run game. And that's exactly what happened. Gurley ended up with over 100 yards rushing in this game. He was able to start hitting some creases. Then you started to be able to work the middle of the football field with Brandon Cooks and Cooper Kupp, and things started to open up. And then all of a sudden, you're able to get into the red zone, get into the end zone, and run away with this thing and hide 33-13 on the defensive side of the football. Look, the Raiders spent a lot of money on their offensive line, spent the first-round pick on their left tackle. They've got a really quality right tackle in Donald Penn. All three of their interior offensive linemen are guys that they've spent money on. They drafted Gabe Jackson. They spent money on Kelechi Osemele, spent money on Rodney Hudson. So this is going to be a tough line to penetrate because this is a well-put-together offensive line. That being said, that you did a pretty solid job at stopping the run. Early on, there were some hits for Marshawn Lynch, including a touchdown run where he was able to keep his legs turning, get some help from his teammates, get into the end zone. But bottom line was, when push came to shove, you were able to really stop the rush game, because that's what the Raiders wanted to do. They wanted to slow the pace of this game down. They wanted this to be a 20-17 game. You couldn't live in that realm, because if you did, you were going to find yourself in a dogfight and potentially lose this game. That's why the score needed to get up into the 20s, get up to the 30s. You get into that kind of affair, and you heard, and I'm starting to really like this Monday night group. I think Booger McFarland on the field really brings this thing together. Jason Witten is slowly growing on me. I don't have a problem with Joe Tessitore, never have, never will. So you heard Anthony McFarland, Booger McFarland, say that the Raiders didn't want this to be basketball on grass. They didn't want this to be a track meet, essentially is what he was saying. They wanted this to be a slugfest. They wanted this thing to be slow and methodical. That's why they started out the game running the football with Marshawn Lynch. That's what John Gruden wants to do, and he knew he couldn't beat the Rams at their game, which is scoring points. Let's not turn this into a 34-31 shootout. The Raiders used to be able to do that. Remember those days when the Raiders could go 34-31, beat the Baltimore Ravens in week 2 at home? It is a shootout with Joe Flacco. Remember those days? You can't do that anymore. You're not equipped with enough talent to do that anymore. Your roster says you can't do that anymore. Derek Carr isn't a confident enough quarterback to do that anymore. So what you have to do is you have to muck the game up. You got to slow the pace down, eat up time of possession, and you got to try to slow play teams and win games 20-17, 23-17, 17-13. Problem is, your defense isn't good enough to win games that way unless the offense is keeping them off the field. So there's a little bit of a dilemma there for the Raiders, but if you're the Rams, thought you did a really good job of stopping the run, which put the onus on Derek Carr after win this game. And you saw what happened, 3 interceptions. Threw one up for grabs. John Johnson with the interception in the end zone. That was a beautiful play by him. You turn around, get another pick later on in the game. The Corey Littleton pick was just god-awful. I don't even know. Normally you can make sense of some of those and say, okay, yeah, receiver and quarterback weren't on the same page, or it was an option route. He was expecting them to cut out. He went up, a little miscommunication. I don't know what the hell he was thinking on that play, because it was a simple comeback towards the sidelines for Jordy Nelson, and it was a Texas route over the middle of the field for Jalen Richard. So I don't know what he was thinking. Corey Littleton was standing there the entire time. It's not like he just showed up out of nowhere. That was a bad decision. And again, the defense was opportunistic tonight. Whenever the Raiders made a mistake, they pounced on that mistake. 3 turnovers forced by this Rams defense. And again, the only guy that really hurt you tonight in the pass game was Jared Cook Jr. He was the only guy to really get loose in your secondary. Amari Cooper was non-existent. You put the shackles on that young man. Didn't hear from him after, I think it was a first quarter catch for 9 yards. Don't think I heard his name the rest of the night, except for when they were asking, was his face put on all the milk cartons yet? Were they done printing those milk cartons out with Amari Cooper's face on it? Didn't hear much from Seth Roberts or any of the other receivers the Raiders have on their roster. Jordy Nelson, did he have anything other than the one catch that they threw to him on the outcut? I think that was for about a good 13 or 14 yards. Don't think we heard from Jordy Nelson too much. And that's what happens when you got a bunch of 30-somethings. You know, they'll make a play here or there, but bottom line is, you know, the Rams turned the faucet off in the second half. They turned the faucet off, and they got it going offensively, and they finally finished drives with touchdowns instead of field goals. And that put more of the onus on the Raiders because you saw what happened. Then the Raiders weren't able to keep running the football. Now you got to rely on Derek Carr to throw it. And now you got to take Marshawn Lynch out of the game and insert Jalen Richard. So now you're kind of telling me, okay, we're definitely throwing it now. Now we can pin our ears back and get aggressive. And then you see them coming after Derek Carr. Michael Brocker's getting the sack. Corey Littleton was everywhere tonight. So I love hearing those guys talk trash. I heard Joyner tell Marshawn Lynch, that ain't shit. You know, that ain't shit. So I heard Corey Peters say, hey, bro, I told you we was going to bring that shit today. And he was talking to Marshawn Lynch. Him and Marshawn Lynch are like cousins. I mean, they grew up in the same area. He idolized him. You saw what he did when he scored the touchdown. You know, you saw him embrace him after the first tackle that he had. Remember, last year when Peters got into it with the Raiders, who was the guy that went on the field and got him and escorted him to the locker room to make sure nobody messed with him? Marshawn Lynch. They're boys, okay? That's like his mentor. So he was telling them, I told you we was going to bring that shit tonight. Told you we was going to bring that shit tonight. So it was fun. ESPN's mics were catching everything. That was fun to hear. But bottom line is the Rams were the better team. They ultimately wore the Raiders down, did what they were supposed to do, come out with a 33-13 victory. For the Raiders, I saw a team that fought hard, and gave themselves a chance, but there's just not enough. There's not enough there. And they're going to win some games this year. Let's not act like the Raiders are going to go 2-14. They're going to win some games this year, but the teams that they're supposed to lose to, they're going to lose to this year. The teams that they're supposed to beat or are going to have a shot to beat, they're going to be in those games with a chance to win. And they're going to win some of them. So this is what this is what you should expect from the Raiders moving forward this season. But nice win by the Rams. You did what you were supposed to do. And in a division where it is literally yours for the taking, you just have to win games that you're supposed to win. You will win the division. There is not another team. There isn't another team. There is not a team in that division. Let's stop talking with the double negatives tonight. There isn't a team in that division that can stop you from winning it. Only you can stop yourself from winning this division. Every team in the NFC West lost on Sunday. You're 1-0. Everyone else in the division is 0-1. I believe two more of those teams in the division are going to be squaring off in week number 2 versus one another. So someone's going to get a win. But like I said, you're the best team in that division. You should win the division. And it's games like tonight that you're going to have to win in order to separate yourself from the rest of the division. And you did what you were supposed to do. So let's just get to the proceedings this evening and get to some of your comments. And I thank you guys for joining me. I didn't expect this many of you on the nightcap. Normally when we have a nightcap like this, generally not a lot of you show up for the second portion of the doubleheader because it's just so late. And I get it. So appreciate you guys sticking it out with me tonight. Atlas says Carr is going to be strangled to death tonight. Just as he gets to back, he says Carr is going to be strangled to death tonight. Just after he gets back to his hotel room, he'll turn around in his dying breath and see Chucky staring down at him. Spider 2Y banana, says Atlas. Atlas says the Gruden regime is already over. Carr is getting traded. Gruden is on the phone right now trying to trade back for Mac. Nathan Peterman is the worst quarterback in the league. Thank you for that non sequitur comment, Atlas. Reese says, Rams just opened a can of whoop ass, just like Captain Insano. Redskins Review says, I think both teams are good, but I wanted the Rams to win because I want McVay to succeed as long as it's not versus us. LOL. Cloud says, welcome back to the NFL, John Gruden. Yikes. The Cubone says, go Rams, baby. Huge Rams fan over there. What up, Q? Reese says, I recognize some plays and formations from back when Gruden was our coach. Cloud says, Goff was chilling in the pocket for the most part. That's part of the problem with the Raiders. When you trade away Khalil Mack, he was the one difference maker you had off the edge. Now, they really like Arden Key. They really think he can be a difference maker in time. And he might ultimately be something for them. We'll see what he turns out to be. But wouldn't it have been nice to have seen if Arden Key could be the Robin to Khalil Mack's Batman? Because Bruce Irvin, he's cool. He's all right, but he's not real. Like, that sack he got tonight, that's the sack that Bruce Irvin gets. The cleanup sack. The sack where the quarterback is unaware, hanging on to the football for way too long, and Bruce Irvin comes around the pocket full circle and is able to come back into the play and get the sack and strip in the forced fumble. That's the Bruce Irvin sack. He doesn't win right off the snap and get to the quarterback. So that's the problem the Raiders have. When you trade away a guy like Mack, you trade away 85% of your pass rush. You were already lacking in that department with Mack because he was the only guy that could get pressure. But at least you had a guy that could win one-on-one and you had to account for. And if you decided to double team him, someone was going to get matched up one-on-one and you would hope someone else would be able to win a one-on-one matchup. Now you got one-on-ones across the board and everyone feels comfortable that they should be able to win their one-on-one matchup. And if not, you got an extra blocker somewhere that can help out. So that's the dilemma that the Raiders face now with no Khalil Mack. Cloud says 2 ass whoopings on Monday night. Again, the score is somewhat misleading because up until the 7-8 minute mark of this game, the game was still in the balance. 23-13 was when you really started to feel like, okay, the Rams are about to take control of this game. And even then, they had to kick a 55-yard field goal to make that happen, to go up 10, 2 scores. And that was midway through, about a third through the fourth quarter. So it's not like this game was out of hand. It was a 7-point game at 20-13 at that point before the 55-yarder by Young Jeezy to turn that thing into a 10-point game. And remember, it was 17-13 going into the fourth quarter. Rams scored as time expired in the third quarter to take their first lead of the game. So this was a close game. Raiders just ran out of gas, essentially. Double A says, I thought the bottom was going to fall out on the Rams after 3 first half. I don't understand that comment. You stupid, Ree. I Break for Rapper says, I like how you didn't include Chargers when you said the Rams might have lost to anyone in the AFC West. I didn't include the Chargers. I don't trust the Chargers. I couldn't throw them in there because I put my faith in the Chargers on Sunday at home. And you know what's funny? And I don't want to do this here, but since you brought it up, my uncle is a Chiefs fan. And I was talking cold, hard cash to him all week about how they're going to lose this week. Oh, you're going to lose to the Chargers. Last year, you beat them 17-10 in Los Angeles, and you jumped on them early, and they didn't have enough to get you late. They're going to get you this time. They're going to force some turnovers. I know you didn't have Joey Bosa. I understand how the game goes, but I said, they're going to get you this time. They didn't have Eric Berry. So it was even. I said, oh, yeah, they're going to get you this time. And what'd you do? The same shit you always do. Like, I'm so done with the Chargers, man. This was your division to win. And my uncle said to me, and he said it so calmly, as if he was so confident. Like he had nothing to worry about. He said, who's going to take the division from us? Everybody said it was going to be the Raiders last year. What happened to them? Now everybody's saying it's going to be the Chargers. This is our division. We run the AFC West. Since Manning retired, it's our division. Who's going to take it from us? And I said the Chargers are going to take it from you. And what did the Chargers? They went into the team that was supposed to take the division from them, into their house week 1. They made a statement. This is our shit. We run this. Put 38 on their skull. With a rookie quarterback, essentially. Put 38 on their head. Yeah, I watched the game. Yeah, the Chargers made a ton of mistakes. That's what the Chargers always do. So, no, I didn't name the Chargers. Reese says, Doug Martin has lost all of his vision. He couldn't see an elephant in the phone booth. Again, all these old veterans that he's going to get with their best football behind them, I just don't get it. Buffalo pregame says, I think people are going to forget most of the game was fairly close and competitive with the score. Exactly my point, Buffalo pregame, is that the score doesn't indicate just how competitive this game actually was. You know, this game was fairly close for much of the game. For 3/4 of this game, this was a competitive football game. Hell, for 4/5 of this game. And then it got out of control late. John Perez says, Raiders really missed Mac tonight. They're going to miss Mac, period. Like, we don't have to keep reminding them of what they're going to miss. They know. They know they effed up. You know, they know. Your boss says, Lou, should we trade Carr? Let me go back up. Oh, here we go. Your boss says, Lou, should we trade Carr and draft a young quarterback because we can't win a Super Bowl with this team, but Gruden still got it? I wouldn't be opposed to trading Derek Carr. The thing is, who are you going to trade him to and what are you going to get for him? You just signed this man to a massive deal. No one's going to try to trade for that deal. Now, again, if you were to make him available, some desperate quarterback needy team would definitely step up to the plate. Absolutely. You'd get something for him. But his stock isn't very high right now. I would think. You know, obviously, if you were to make him available in a team that thinks that they're a quarterback away, would definitely want to pounce on the opportunity. But I just, in today's NFL, how often do you see a quarterback of Derek Carr's ilk traded in the prime of their career, just getting a big contract? Highly unlikely. And how many times have we heard people say, this is the best quarterback John Gruden's ever had? So how are you going to trade the best quarterback you've ever had away? I'm not a Derek Carr believer. I'm not. I've always been skeptical of him. I thought he was turning the corner in 2016 when he went for when he was making his case for the MVP before the injury. I thought he was turning the corner. You know, I saw a guy that was a little bit more fearless, willing to stay in the pocket, take the shot. But after that injury that he sustained, and then he sustained another injury the next year versus Denver when he got hit in his back, I see a guy that is reverting back to the old Derek Carr that doesn't want any part of getting hit in the pocket. When push comes to shove, he doesn't want that kind of smoke. And if you're going to hit him, he'd much rather just get rid of the football and move on to the next play or play hot potato. Here, you take it. I don't want it. You take the rock. So, I don't know. I honestly don't know. But if I'm the Raiders in the offseason, I'd be open to any and everything. But, you know, we'll see. He's not going anywhere. What am I talking about? He's not going anywhere. Captain Spartan 04 says, I thought coming out of Alabama, Amari Cooper could become a future Hall of Famer. Now I don't think he'll even be an all-pro for the rest of his career. I never liked Amari Cooper. He's too passive. His demeanor is too passive-aggressive. And you can be passive-aggressive and still be a good receiver. But I think in order to be a great receiver, you have to be somewhat aggressive. There has to be a dog in you where you want the ball, you want to be the guy. I just don't see that. You know, a lot of people used to take Marvin Harrison's quietness and A.J. Green's quiet demeanor for passive-aggressive. Those guys are dogs, you know. Marvin Harrison, we've seen his demeanor off the field. People are scared of this man. We think he's out here shooting people. Like, Marvin Harrison is not to be taken for a joke. And you ask Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison wanted the ball in practice. Marvin Harrison wanted the ball on every snap. That's not Amari Cooper, man. Like, that's not in his DNA. He's a quiet guy. Soft-spoken, very respectful. He doesn't want any smoke, man. And I know a bunch of guys in the league like that, and it's cool. You can blend in. But with his talents, you're expecting him to be more dominant, and it's just not in his DNA. You know, he'll have those games every now and again, like the Kansas City Monday night game last year. Was it Thursday night game last year? Where he went off over 200 yards receiving. He's got that ability. But those are so few and far between that it's just frustrating with him. Gregory Lightbody says, do you think the Skins can beat the Colts next week? Yes, I do. Look, if you've been watching my predictions, I pretty much told you how I felt about every game this season. Like, that's not going to change unless injuries and things come about. But I pretty much told you how I feel about all the games on the Redskins schedule this year. I already pretty much told you how I feel. Back and watch 2016. There were a lot of guys bailing him out. A lot of guys bailing him out. So I do agree with that sentiment that a lot of his plays, big plays, was guys making incredible catches. I remember week 1 in 2016 against the Saints when Jack Del Rio decided to go for it on 4th down. Says, Lou, I swear you know more about the Raiders. He said, Lou, I swear you know more than Raiders fans. Every point you are making is accurate, but how do you think Gruden playing all veterans on defense besides the defensive line? By the way, get some rest, Lou. I will after this. Back to the first time he was in Oakland with the Raiders. Gruden is comfortable with veterans. He's always been comfortable with veterans. Gruden, sorry, I was looking, I saw some technical difficulties. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, Gruden has always been comfortable with veterans. This goes back to his first stint with the Raiders. And I talked about that when they traded Mack, about how the first time around in Gruden 1.0, there's a bunch of veterans on that roster. You go back and look. And this goes both sides of football. He's always been comfortable with veteran players. There's just a level of comfort that veteran players bring John Gruden. And that's just simply how it is. And when you look at, and that's across the board, a lot of times with coaches, especially coordinators, they're comfortable with guys that they are familiar with. You know, you see Paul Gunther come over, and who does he bring with him? Leon Hall. Why? Because he had him in Cincinnati. Also, Reggie Nelson, another veteran. Why is Paul Gunther comfortable with him at safety, even though these guys are continuously getting blown by? How many times did you see Rams receivers running by your safeties tonight? Why? Because they're 80 years old. But why are they on the field? Because Paul Gunther had both of those guys in Cincinnati. He knows Leon Hall. He knows Reggie Nelson. He's comfortable with those guys, even though they're old as hell. Let's get some of the young guys out there. No, the Raiders want to cut Obi Melifonwu. Look, I'm not saying Obi Melifonwu was good. All right, he was uber athletic, but he might have been trash. I can't tell you what he was doing out there, but they cut his ass. Bottom line is, the defensive line is young because that's where they got the most talent. They got a steal in Hurst. If the heart is right, that's a steal in the what? A lot of stuff that they're getting into with these young guys that they think they could have something up front with the youngins. So that's why you're seeing an influx of young guys getting opportunities with the Raiders. But John Perez says, were the Jets that good or were the Lions that bad? Rule number 1, don't ever hire a Belichick assistant because they stink. It was a combination of both. It was a combination of both. The Jets actually really played well, and the Lions played really bad. So it was a combination of both. Combination of both. Angry Birds of Chaos said, wait a minute. When are you going to go over all of Sunday's games? My goal was to have done that already, and I forgot I had to set everything up, and so I pretty much ran out of time. So if the weather is permitting, we're going to have some nasty weather over here in Virginia I might have to evacuate. So you might not see me for the rest of the week. But just so you know, for those of you out there, I won the football pool. Somebody come knock me off, man. I won the football pool this week, and I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win most of them this year. I'm not gonna lie to you. Unless we get an influx of people playing, and there's more people out there, I can't see me not winning a bunch of football pools this year. So somebody come get at me. Somebody knock me off the throne. The sheet is already up on the website, louietnetwork.net. Go to the exclusives tab. Hit me up, man. Weekly pick'em pool. Come get at me. You're looking at your champ right here. Your defending champ right here. Daddy Smoke Yam says the Raiders tried their best to F up my fantasy, but we squeaked out the 1-point victory with those garbage time yards on the last drive. That is why I absolutely hate fantasy football with a passion, because it's nonsense like that. You know what I mean? Reese says, Lou, this is the big question I have always wanted to ask you. Here it goes. Do you believe in Fitz magic? We'll talk about that, man, tomorrow. Hopefully I'll get a chance to talk about that, because I got to really calm you damn Buccaneers fans down, because you're acting crazy. And you already know how this goes with Fitz magic. You got me calling him. It's fitty, man. You got the 50% good part on Sunday, and next week you're probably going to get the 50% bad. You know how this goes, man. It's fitty. You flip a coin, and heads he's good, tails he's bad. You got heads this week. Good for you. But don't sit here and act like you don't already know how this goes. But you know what? We'll have this conversation another day, and when he F's up, I want you to come back with that same energy. All you Bucs fans, I want y'all to come back with that same energy that y'all had after he went. Now, what he did yesterday was incredible. It was incredible, and I take nothing away from him. That was probably the biggest surprise of week 1, and I didn't have cable access for the 1 o'clock game, so I'm following the games on my phone, and to see the score at halftime, I was floored. Like, how the hell did they score 31 points? How the hell did the score was 48-24 at one point. Amazing. But we'll get to that another day. Stormtrooper 2817 says, fair to say Carr was 85% the reason for the L. Disgusting play from him today. I want to say 85 is a lot. 85 is a lot. How about your defense get some pressure on the quarterback? Try doing that. You know, how about your defense not let Todd Gurley go for a buck and some change? Yeah, Derek Carr was a huge part of the loss. Let's go with 70. 70 is a much better number. 10% taken away. Let's go with 70. 70 sounds good. That's a round number for me. He was probably 70% of the reason they lost this game. 3 interceptions. The first one was back-breaking because you had all the momentum. You had the Rams legit 6'4", 6'5". Put the football up, let him go up and get it. And he underthrew it, and he was able to make a play. Yeah, Derek Carr was a huge part of the reason you lost this game, for sure. He's fast. He's really, really fast. So fast, he makes people look not fast. Hashtag the longest yard. Angry Birds of Chaos says, I thought Carr would have done a lot better because he played against Talib and Marcus Peters when they were in the same division. Do you think Carr might demand for a trade? That's not his style. He's not the type of guy that's going to quit. But like I said, I feel the same way I do about Carr that I do Matt Ryan. Like, I'm really iffy on both of those dudes right now. And both of them had out-of-this-world 2016s. Both of them did. It's ironic that both of them had MVP caliber 2016s. The only difference was Carr didn't get to finish his. Ryan did. He went on to win the MVP, and his team went to the Super Bowl. If Carr stays healthy, maybe the Raiders are playing the Falcons in the Super Bowl. And those two are duking it out for MVP honors. Whatever the case may be, both of those guys had arguably game-altering week ones, both of them. Matt Ryan's play was pathetic, and I thought it cost his team on Thursday night last week. And I thought Derek Carr's performance tonight was atrocious, and it gave his team playing in the preseason hurt them early on. I agree. I already mentioned that before. That's the problem you have when guys don't play in the preseason. It's really simple. I think Steve Young said it best at halftime. Week one of the NFL season is becoming the new preseason. It's the third preseason game, essentially. Teams are just trying to get to the regular season healthy now. It's becoming less and less of, hey, let's make sure we're in sync and we're meshing and gelling together and we're on page so that week one comes and we're ready to hit the ground running. And it's more about, hey, let's just get to week one with all of our horses. I can respect that. I can't sit here and talk about either philosophy being better than the other, but, you know, when you struggle week one, you know why, if you didn't play your guys in the preseason. There's a direct correlation. Angry Birds of Chaos says, wait, why did Andy Reid trade Marcus Peters and why to the Rams? Because they didn't like his attitude and they didn't want to pay him. 2 reasons. They thought he was a head case, which he is. But some guys you're willing to overlook that if they're good enough. They just had enough of his theatrics, you know, kicking the ball in the stands, throwing the referee's flag in the stands, that kind of thing. Excuse me. They were over it. And they had to pay him. This is his final year of his rookie deal. They didn't want to invest. So they said, let's get something for him. And then they traded for a much safer player in Kendall Fuller from the Redskins. So they felt like they got a guy that was equally as talented, but with less baggage and going to have more years on his rookie deal. So they felt like we got more cheap labor, and we got the same kind of talent. They're wrong because Peters is much more of a playmaker than Kendall Fuller will ever be, but Kendall Fuller is a good football player too. So Stormtrooper 2817 says, should Raiders fans mentally check out until Vegas? Seems like it, since we must be rebuilding, right? You're not rebuilding. That's not what John Gruden is trying to do. But with the way he's building the roster, you're going to ultimately end up rebuilding in the process. When you purge your roster of guys that were contributors and fill it up with a bunch of aging veterans, at some point you're going to have to move on from those older guys and replace them with newer, younger, cheaper players. And in doing so, it's going to, in some way, shape, or form, be somewhat of a rebuilding process. So, yeah. You don't have to mentally check out, though. I wouldn't advise that, but it's going to be rough for sure. John Perez says, who's more likely to get traded, Cooper or Carr? Why are we fascinated with people getting traded? Neither one of these guys are going anywhere right now. Until we start hearing rumors, and I know last time I just flat out turned down any rumor of Khalil Mack getting traded because it just didn't make sense. But after he gets traded, no one's safe. But Carr just got a deal. He's not going anywhere. He's a franchise quarterback. And Cooper is still on his rookie deal, and they have a 5th-year option on him. So I think he's still 2 years away from getting a new deal or having to make a decision on him. I don't see either one of those guys going anywhere right now or anytime in the near future. JP says, what is Jameis Winston's future in Tampa Bay? That's another discussion for another day. Daddy Smoke Yam says, I don't blame Derek Carr for the loss. I blame that BS offense they were running. Rams made adjustments and the Raiders didn't. Can't keep running the same plays against that defense. John also asks, just wondering when you're going to cover winners and losers week 1. I'm anxious to see how I did, even though it was a rough week. I am not covering winners and losers, but the results or the sheet is on the site. So you can check out for yourself how you did and how everybody else did. And I will put up, if I get a chance to again, this week is going to be a little helter-skelter with the weather around here. Some of the areas surrounding my city have already been mandatory evacuated. So we're going to see if that includes us eventually as the storm gets closer and they start to figure out the path of the storm. So hard for me to really say what's going on, but I'm not going to be covering winners and losers like I did last year. It's just too time consuming to do it that way. So I'll try to see, once things kind of settle down and I'm able to get into a groove, I'll see if I can carve out some time to maybe bring some more awareness to it. But right now, I can tell you for sure, not going to happen. In any event, it's going to pretty much do it for tonight, man. I appreciate you guys sticking it out with me. Raiders, Rams. It was a good game for much of that game. 33-13 doesn't tell the entire story. Raiders hung tough for much of this game. Unfortunately, there are two halves of football. Raiders only played one, and so they don't score a single point in the second half. Rams reel off the final 23 points in this football game after trailing 13-10 at the half. They win this thing 33-13 going away. Pick six late by Marcus Peters and a late field goal really made this thing look a lot more decisive than what it really was. This score at one point was 17-13 heading into the fourth quarter. Rams had just taken their first lead of the game. So this is a very competitive game up until about the mid portion of the fourth quarter. But I'm your man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me here on this program. Remember, like the video, subscribe to the Louie T Network if you haven't already done so. Check out all of the different things I have going on. I got to get these podcasts out, man. I've done 2 podcasts. I just haven't uploaded them, and I got to finish editing them, and just too much going on, man. Too much going on. So I think now that I can get into a rhythm, hopefully this storm will allow me to not have to pack my shit up and go much faster than slow. I'll be able to get into a rhythm and get into some normalcy, but it's been crazy the last couple of weeks. Hopefully things will start to die down. I don't know why I'm up here lying to myself. My kid will be here before I know it, and that will throw a wrench into everything. So whatever the case may be, I'm still going to come at you, but it's not going to be the way that I would like to. But in any event, check out the podcast, check out the website. If you are competitive like me, get into the weekly pick-em pool on the website, louietnetwork.net. You think you can pick the games better than me? Prove it. I just won the pool this week. Just won me $60. So bring it. If you want some, come get some. I'm here. You know where to find me. louietnetwork.net. Exclusives tab. Winner or weekly pick-em pool. So, with that being said, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. Remember, we're changing the game one live feed at a time. I will see you guys next time. And again, special thanks to every single one of you for joining me tonight. It's late, especially if you're on the East Coast. It's late, but it's still great here on the Louie T Network. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.